I'm still alive and I love aquariums. Ever since I was a little kid, I loved the ocean, and since I don't exactly live near one, the aquariums were my best way to experience it. I loved learning about sea life, I read books about sharks, and I always found the vast expanse of the ocean to be both awe-inspiring and beautiful. So whenever my family has been on vacation, I've always pestered my parents to let me go to the aquarium. And after the past 17 or so years, I've been to just about every major aquarium in the United States. As of last March, I had a pretty clear top 3. In third place was the home of Rosa the Sea Otter, the Monterey Bay Aquarium. In second was the Shed in Chicago. But in first was my hometown aquarium, which for privacy reasons we'll call the Iliad. Now I've had this list for the past nearly 5 years, ever since I went to the Iliad for the first time. It's the smallest of my top 3, and definitely the least well known. I mean, both of the other two are always regularly ranked towards the top of the best aquariums in the country lists. But I really liked how the Iliad was linear and allowed you to see everything you wanted to in just one walkthrough. There's a couple of other distinct features, but I'll get into them later. However, last spring break was the final opportunity for something to knock the Iliad off the top spot when my family went to Atlanta, Georgia to see the Georgia Aquarium. I mean, that wasn't the only reason we were there, but let's pretend it is. Now, this aquarium is pretty commonly considered to be the very best in the country, and today I was going to put that to the test. Well, again, I guess not today, more like me from a year ago, but who cares? Can my hometown aquarium beat the best in the country? Let's find out. Joining me on this quest is my brother Nate Murphy and my mom, who has refused to share her real name. We started the day bright and early at 11 a.m. on my 17th birthday, by the way. We went to check in and Nate was immediately stopped by security. Look at all the stuff he had in his pockets. Okay, never mind, let's move on. As we entered the aquarium, we were first greeted by a wall of jellyfish, which I definitely not creepily pointed at. Then after an awkward family photo, which I can't show you because we didn't buy it, we entered the main lobby. This aquarium is structured very differently from the Iliad. Instead of just one linear walkthrough, the Georgia Aquarium has a bunch of different exhibits that you can all enter through the main lobby. And I immediately knew where I wanted to visit first. I've loved sharks my whole life, and for an aquarium to top my list, it's gonna need to have them. But while the Georgia Aquarium shark exhibit was interesting, it was nothing special. It was just one small loop around a central tank with the sharks, and while that's cool, it definitely doesn't beat the Iliad's. The Iliad has a gigantic wall where you can see into the shark exhibit, and you can even see them from the bathroom. Oh yeah, did I mention that? The Iliad's bathroom doesn't have a mirror, it has sharks. So I think my hometown is winning so far. After visiting the sharks, we went to the next exhibit, the Tropical Diver. The tanks here all had really cool set work with eels coming out of pipes and even a wrecked pirate ship. Then it opened out into this huge room with a beautiful window into a coral reef. This reminded me of why I love the ocean, and it was just so beautiful. The Iliad definitely doesn't have anything like this, so I think that's 1-1. Now this won't factor into any of my individual exhibit reviews, but the Georgia Aquarium was so crowded. You can sort of tell in this clip here, but we heard an employee later on say that it was one of the busiest weekends of the month. It was sort of hard to move around, and that's a bit of a continuous problem with a lot of the more well-known aquariums I've been to. Wait, what's that sound? Why, it's the next exhibit, the Ocean Voyager, presented by Home Depot. I have no idea why this one was sponsored, but who am I to judge? Now, the Ocean Voyager is probably the Georgia Aquarium's most famous exhibit, as it has their manta rays and whale sharks, and it is one of the only places in the world to have these. So this exhibit starts with this cool conveyor belt underwater tunnel thing where you can see the manta rays and the whale sharks swimming over. I think I heard them say they had 3 manta rays and 2 whale sharks, but that could be wrong. And wow, the whale sharks were huge. I don't know how well it's coming across on video, but they were massive. And my favorite fact about whale sharks is that they are neither whale nor shark. Wait, what? But after we got out of the tunnel, we came into view of the single largest aquarium exhibit I'd ever seen. This window was gigantic, and it really felt like a part of the ocean. You could see the whale sharks so clearly, and it was so awesome. However, there were about 1 million Coca-Cola buzzed children around us, so we said our goodbyes to the whale sharks and went back into the main lobby. As I reluctantly gave the Georgia Aquarium another point, we went to have lunch at the Coastline Cafe. I don't mention this often, but I have celiac disease, which means I can't eat any gluten. So restaurants on vacations are always a bit of a coin flip. But fortunately, the Coastline Cafe had gluten-free fries, which is pretty rare, and no gluten-free buns, so you know, you win some, you lose some. It was very crowded, but fortunately there were 2 separate dining rooms and they were pretty cool. Now this lunch was pleasant, but I won't be giving out any more points since I've never been to the Iliad restaurant. But before we go back to the aquarium, look what Nate did to his burger. Okay, moving on. Next, we headed to the River Scout, which had a lot of freshwater river animals. There were sea otters, seals, alligators, and even an elephant. But while this was all cool, I think I prefer the Iliad's Rivers of the World exhibit, so I'm gonna give it a point. Also, it was about 1:30 at this point, and the River Scout exhibit was pretty crowded. With all the people around, it was getting warm. Maybe we just need some cold? Yeah, that transition could use work. This one felt pretty standard. We saw some otters, some beluga whales, and even another sponsor! Look, it's IKEA. Our beluga whales drive in style. Just after the cold water area, we saw a sign with all their sponsors, and wow, there are so many. But I should probably stop making fun of the Georgia Aquarium's finances, since I got a chance to meet their founders. this area was kind of forgettable, so I'm gonna give the point to the Iliad. If you're keeping track at home, that means the score is 3-2 in my hometown Aquarium's favor. You may be thinking I'm too biased to objectively score this competition, and to that I say yes. Yes, I am. After that, my mom got me a whale shark stuffed animal. Here's me buying him, and here's me holding him now. But with a new friend, we headed to the final exhibit of the day, Dolphin Coast. Right after we arrived, we booked the dolphin show, so up the escalator we went. The theater was gigantic, and the seats were frighteningly steep. I got a bit of footage of the actual show, and it was very cool to see the dolphins dancing around. But right at the very beginning, this dolphin did a giant leap out of the water, but I didn't have my phone out yet, so unfortunately there's no evidence of this. Anyway, the show was cool, and the Iliad definitely doesn't have anything like this, so that's another point to the Georgia Aquarium. More crowds waited for us after we left, but fortunately we got out of there in about 10 minutes. Overall, it took us just over 3 hours to conquer the Georgia Aquarium, and I can honestly see why it's one of the best in the country. It had huge exhibits, amazing set work, and whale sharks, which aren't anywhere else in the country. Well, if I'm being completely honest, I think the Georgia Aquarium is objectively better than the Iliad. But this isn't an objective list, it's my list. And for me, I think I prefer the Iliad. It's less crowded, and you can see everything pretty easily. So for me, the Georgia Aquarium is gonna slide into second place on my rankings, and the Iliad is gonna keep the top spot. But who knows, there's still plenty of international aquariums. Let me know what you think. This was a very different style of video, and it was kind of a collab with me from a year ago. I'd love to hear about your favorite aquarium. Thanks for watching, and Nate, I'll see you on Tuesday.